Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I will be your host on this weekend edition episode. I have questions. But before I get started, a lot of you have been asking about Rascal and how he's doing. So what I'd like to do is I'll explain it myself. Say hello. He's a little confused this morning. Anyway, I wanted to let you guys know that Rascal is doing a lot better. He's not 100%, but I think he's about 80% now. Yep, he can run, he can play, he can have a good time. So, you're going to start seeing him on the Practice 55712 channel out in the garden. He doesn't like being up here in the Voodoo Garden because he just feels kind of weird. But anyway, I want to let you guys know he is doing absolutely fine. So, we're gonna go outside. Sound good? Okay, we're going to head out and let me over there do what I do best. Sounds good. Talk to you later. Sounds good. All right, that was fun. That was fun. But anyway, I want to get started with some questions, but let me grab something really quick. And get this out of here. And this is really kind of cool. Oops. Socks. What are socks doing here? Okay. I think we're pretty much ready. I think I'm ready. As long as I have a pineapple poking me in the back, I think I'm a pretty happy guy. I've gotten a lot of questions on my Facebook from viewers. I posted last night. If you have any questions about your garden, indoor or outdoor, post your question on my Facebook. And I thought that would be a cool way to get questions, and it really was. I got a whole bunch of them. But the weird thing happened was I posted that, and I went to go play a video game, and I came back. And people were answering the questions. And I had to stop them. I'm like, no. These are for me. These are my questions. I want to answer these. Even though I love the fact that my friends over there are just anxious to dive right in and give answers. And by the way, I looked at the answers. They were really good answers. I should steal some of those. But no, I wanted to just get 6 of them, just 6 questions, so that I could do a weekend edition, because I wanted to answer a few of your questions here in the Voodoo Garden because I'm busy outside on the Praxis channel doing outdoor stuff. So I still wanted to answer your questions. Plus, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to drag you downstairs kicking and screaming because I have to butcher a plant. And I figured, might as well take you down there and witness the destruction. It's going to be a good thing in the end. It really is. But anyway, let's get to the questions, all right? I'm only going to use first names. So if you recognize your name, yeah, this is you. Stephen or Stefan and Didi asked about slugs. What do they eat and what works for you in the garden to get rid of them? That was actually one of the most common questions that I get recently, because with humid weather and stuff, slugs are all over the place. And slugs are something that it's kind of a never-ending battle. There really is. I mean, there's a million different things out there to help get rid of slugs. There's all kinds of products that'll take your money. Some people say beer, and that works for them. You know, you put out a little bowl of beer, and the slugs climb in there and drown. Some people say that doesn't work for me. It's a horrible waste of beer. And some people claim diatomaceous, I don't know, some kind of, yeah, it's just powdery stuff. It's made of crushed prehistoric sea creatures, and it's supposed to have sharp, jagged edges, and that'll help. There's a million different ways, but from what I've read and from what I've seen other people post what works best for them, I have compiled what I believe is the best answer to your question, because I personally don't have a snail problem, and I feel kind of weird because that sounds kind of arrogant, you know? Oh, I don't have slug problems. Well, I don't. And the reason that I don't, I believe, is that I water a certain way that keeps the top surface of the soil dry. And I believe that that slows down slugs, because all a slug is a living, breathing ball of goo. And that goo is water-based. So they need a lot of moisture in order to keep going, because slugs will dry out extremely fast. One quick way to kill a slug, and it's really gross, sprinkle salt on it, because salt draws out the water, and you can just watch this poor slug bubble up and die before your eyes. It's a really cruel and torturous way to kill a slug. Found that out when I was younger. I no longer do that. But I don't recommend doing this in your garden. I've figured out the best way to get rid of slugs is to get yourself some diatomaceous, boy, I'm going to put the word up here because I know I'm not pronouncing it right, diatomaceous earth, which is nothing more than this powder, and it's safe. It's perfectly natural, it's organic, it's safe, blah, 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 it's wonderful stuff. Diatomaceous earth, coffee grounds, used coffee grounds, because used coffee grounds have sharp edges, and they don't like that. Plus, it's a little bit acidic, just a little bit, which they don't like as well. And third, if you eat eggs, or if you know anybody that does eat eggs, take the egg shells, boil them off a little bit so that they don't have the raw egg inside of them, and crush them up into as fine of a powder as you can without going nuts. I mean, you don't have to, do it crazy. Mix those three together. If you can get those three together and sprinkle them around the base of the plant, slugs do not like sharp edges. And so when you have diatomaceous earth, eggshells, and coffee grounds, you basically have this minefield of nastiness which is going to slow down the slugs or stop them, and all three of those things are good for your plants. Yep, it's wonderful stuff for your plants. So it's a win-win situation. You're helping your plants, you're hurting the slugs, and you're not having to really, like tear them apart or touch them with your fingers or anything like that. That's my best answer, but like I always say, whatever works for you. So if you have a better answer, down in the comments section below. Question number 2 is from Kristyina or Kristyina. I don't know, it's spelled kind of weird. Anyway, Kristyina asks, what do you use indoors against fungus gnats that truly works for you? I tried yellow sticky paper, cinnamon vacuum cleaners, and they refuse to die. Let me tell you something. If you have indoor plants, by the way, outdoor, they don't really bother your plants because they have natural predators. They have spiders, they have all kinds of weird things that eat them. Indoors, there are no natural predators for fungus gnats. So, what you have to do is whatever you can do to kill them. One thing that I want to remind you is that if you see these little tiny gnats flying around the soil of your plants, those are fungus gnats. And that's the adult. The adult is not your problem. The adult, for every adult that you see, there are probably about 50 of the larvae, which are these micro little maggots that are in your soil, and they're looking for the root hairs of your plants, and they're slowly nibbling away the root hairs of your plants, and they will kill your plants. So for every adult that you see flying around, all they do, by the way, they only live for like a week. They find a male, the female finds a male, they mate, they lay eggs, it's the facts of life. They lay eggs in the soil, and then they die. So you really are going after the wrong thing if you're going after the adults, because for every adult you see, the babies are the ones that are in the soil, and those are the ones that are going to wreck your plants. So what you need to do is a two-part thing. Yellow sticky traps, those are not an end-all thing, but they are wonderful for stopping the adults. You can buy yellow sticky traps or fly paper, that sticky fly paper. If you got sticky fly paper, put it on a toothpick and put it into your soil at around ground level, because they don't fly up here, they fly down here. And they will go to something that's yellow. They're attracted, to yellow. So yellow sticky traps are why, the reason that you use yellow is because they're attracted to yellow. That will stop the adults, but that will not solve your problem. And so for the soil, there is this thing. It's not cheap, but it's permanent, and it lives in your soil. They're called, words going up here because, once again, I can't pronounce it. I use these, by the way. They're called Hyposasis mites. I don't know. They're up here, okay? And I'm also going to put a link in the description to the cheapest place I found to buy these things. It's like $25, and you get like thousands, 10,000 of them or some crazy amount. And it comes in this container, and it doesn't look like anything because you can't see these things. They're microscopic. They're little tiny mites. And by the way, I know you hear the word mites and you're like, ooh, all over my skin. No. These do not bother you. They do not leave your pot. They don't go all over your house. They don't infest your hair. It's not like, lice. These things do absolutely nothing except live in your soil and hunt and destroy fungus gnat larvae. That's what they do. And once they destroy those, they will live off decomposing matter in the soil. So they're 100% harmless. 100% harmless to your plants. And you sprinkle a little pinch in each pot. Now, by the way, this is the trick. You have to have them in every pot in your house. Even if you don't see fungus gnats in there, put them in there. And they will procreate like rabbits in there, and they will live in there forever and ever. Never have a problem again. If you see a fungus gnat after that, don't worry about it, because that fungus gnat is going to lay eggs and feed those things. They will chomp down the babies just like that. They will burrow down, go on top, go everywhere they need to go after those fungus gnats. That is my solution, and I've used that, and I have not had a fungus gnat in over a year. Yeah, a year. And that is absolutely fantastic. I know I have them in my garden because I go out there and I look at my potatoes and there's little tiny fungus gnats all over the place, and I probably bring them in on me every now and then, but they die out really quick because I have those little mites in my soil. Once you're done with a potted plant, don't throw that potted soil outside. Mix it in with your potted soil inside, and those gnats the mites, I'm sorry, the gnats. Whoops. The mites will procreate in that soil and spread, and they'll go into the soil whenever you do another potted plant. So, yes, those things are wonderful. Next one is from Guillermo. Guillermo says, my pumpkin leaves have white areas around the veins. It's not the veins themselves, and it's not mold. It's this white stuff that spreads out from the veins. And actually, I think I know what you're talking about, Guillermo. I'm going to post a picture right here real quick. Yeah. If they look like that, that is not a problem. That's just a natural color. Sometimes pumpkin leaves and squash leaves will get that color, and it's absolutely normal. It's just a variation. Things are not always exactly the same with every single plant in nature. Nature is not a cookie cutter, okay? There's always variations, and I've had that on my pumpkin leaves. I thought, what the heck is that? And that's how I found out. I looked it up online, and it's nothing harmful, so don't worry about it at all. You have perfectly healthy leaves. If it's anything else, I really don't know, but if it's that, it is definitely okay, all right? Don't worry about it, Guillermo. All right, next one, Christopher. Oh, by the way, I checked out Christopher's page, and he works for Mongolian Barbecue, and I wanted to bring that up because when I was in Minneapolis, a friend took me to Khan's Mongolian Barbecue. I'm not spamming for their page, but I went there and I thought, what the heck is a Mongolian barbecue? I've never heard of it, and it is the most wonderful thing that I've ever seen. It combines Asian style food with buffet. I love both. You know, I love a good buffet and I love good Asian food. Mongolian food, I don't know if this is real Mongolian food, but boy, it was wonderful. You go through there with your plate, you take raw meats of all different kinds, and if you don't like meats, that's fine. If you're vegan, vegetarian, they have a wonderland of every kind of vegetable you've ever seen in your life. And you put it on your plate. You pile up your plate. Then you go over to this grill area, and they have this big, huge, flat iron grill that is like 1,000,000 degrees. It's like hot as the sun. You give them your plate, and they ask you whether you want it like hot or mild or something like that. And you also mix up your own sauces to put in there. And they throw it on there, and they flash fry it as fast as they can, and they throw it back onto a new plate, not the old plate, because no raw meat on that plate. And then they give it to you, and you see it cooked right before your eyes, and it's really wonderful. The weird thing about it is when I went there, it was the first time I've ever held chopsticks in my life. And I knew I was just going to fumble like mad because, you know, you're not naturally born to know how to eat with chopsticks. Weird thing is, I ate like a pro. Yeah, I just put those things in my hands, and I was eating rice, and I was eating meat and vegetables. And Mark, who was sitting across from me, he goes, how did you do that? I go, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe I'm part Mongolian. I have no idea. But anyway, back to the question. I just wanted to bring that up because I love food. And so when I heard Christopher work there, I said, oh. Anyway, Christopher asks, do you use a pH tester? Yes, Christopher, I do. There are different ways to test the pH in your soil, and the pH has to do with the acidity and alkalinity of your soil. And you can use test strips, and you can put them in a container and mix water and all this stuff. I went cheap, and this is a cool thing. You toss a battery into it, you shove it into your soil, and it instantly tells you the exact pH of your soil, and it's a digital. And for somebody who's blind like me without my glasses, it is a wonderful thing. Every now and then, just for the heck of it, I go around and check my plants because you never know if your soil is going acidic. And if your soil is too acidic or not acidic enough, your plant may be slowly dying or getting yellow, and you don't know why. You just, you know, I got to stop. You are really ticking me off. Pretty plant, but boy, you just get them poking you, and it's awful. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, pH. Sorry. Sorry. If your pH is off, your plants will slowly start to yellow and wither away and die, and you don't know what it is. You think, oh, too much water, not enough water, probably needs nitrogen. No, it's the pH. So pH is very important. A lot of us don't even think about it, but pH can be important, and I got this off of eBay for $1.95. Yeah, $1.95 for this thing. And so, yeah, that's good. Just look up digital pH tester online, and you can find them everywhere. I don't remember where I got this, but I got it really cheap. Okay, anyway, Benjamin and Anastasia. God, I just love that name, Anastasia. They both had the same question, so I combined them. What is your opinion on the Mettleider gardening system? I've heard a lot about this, and people have asked me this before, but I didn't answer because I really didn't want to be rude. I'm going to have to be honest with you because that's what you expect from me. You want honesty. And what I always say is, whatever works for you in gardening, do it, okay? I'm going to do that disclaimer right off the bat, whether it's organic, inorganic, soil, soilless, hydroponic, aquaponic, whatever it is, whatever you like to do it. Just because I don't do it doesn't mean it's a bad system, okay? But you wanted my opinion on it. I'm going to give you my opinion on the Mettleider, whatever. His name is Dr. Jacob Mettleider. And, you know, I really don't much care for the fact that he's not alive anymore, so I'm going to try and be as respectful as possible. He called himself a doctor, but he really wasn't a doctor. He was given an honorary doctorate, PhD, from a Russian agricultural school. That's honorary, which means, you know, they like your work so much they gave you that. But the fact is, you didn't go to school. You didn't study to earn that doctorate. It's like being called a chef. I'm really into food, and I'm really into good food. And I love to cook, but I'm not a chef. Okay? I was called an appetizer chef at a restaurant, and that's what they called me there, but they called me that. I didn't consider myself a chef. A chef is somebody who goes to school, who puts in the work, who puts in the time, who studies to learn the ins and outs and the proper thing and earns a title of chef. Doctor is somebody that goes to school and earns that title of doctor. So Dr. Jacob Mettleider, I'm sorry, I mispronounced a dead guy's name, but he didn't earn that title. But regardless of all that, Jacob Mettleider, he has a method, and in a nutshell, to save time, it's basically soilless. You use sand or sawdust or whatever you want to grow this in. You don't use real soil because you don't need real soil. What you do is you plant your plant in soilless stuff, and then you feed them fertilizer constantly to get them to grow, and you keep the soil continuously moist. This is not my way of growing. I always promote letting the soil dry out because it forces the roots to grow deeper and to grow more extensively. And a more extensive root system is a healthier plant. And that is my firm belief. And that is how I grow my stuff. That's how I teach. There's a million different teachers out on YouTube, and everybody has their own method. So I don't really badmouth anybody's method because you all have your own methods, and that's great. I promote a certain way, and that's just my little niche here on YouTube. I go for organic whenever possible. I go for a deep root system. I go for the dry soil system, which means water deep, let it dry out. That's how nature does it. Nature does not keep the soil on most plants wet all the time. And also, his method promotes inorganic fertilizers. Yeah, he has this weird little mineral mix that you mix with basically Miracle-Gro or whatever you want to use, and that's fine. You know, if you want to do that, that's fine. But I don't promote that because I don't need that. I figure if I go organic, I'm feeding the soil, and the soil will feed the plant. So my soil is 100% alive, whereas the Mettleider system is no soil, non-organic. It uses inorganic fertilizers. So basically, it's the blue water system. I call that because that's what a lot of greenhouses do. They basically just throw it in a bunch of peat moss and perlite, and then they give it a Miracle-Gro water every time they water. And so when you get your plant, you put it in organic soil, it goes through detox because it's not living off those chemicals, and it goes through detox. It starts looking like crap, and then eventually, if you're lucky, it gets a good root system, it gets into that organic soil, and it comes back even stronger than before. So no, I don't really have a good opinion of that, but that's just me, okay? But if it works for you, knock your socks off and have fun with it. I don't like it. It is basically the antithesis of everything that I promote and everything that I think is great about gardening, which is working with soil, building a live, functioning medium, you know, and that is something that I really go for. I want that soil to be alive. I want things crawling in it. I want things living in it, and I want that living soil to give me a living plant. And by the way, this is a carnation. Oh, it's amazing. Yep, I grew this from seed. Yep, I got carnation seeds, and I've never grown a carnation successfully, and finally, who knew? I'm growing it in the Voodoo garden. And it smells wonderful. It smells wonderful. It's not like the ones you see outdoors where they're big and huge, but you know, we do what we got to do. This is not perfect growing conditions, so I didn't expect a perfect carnation, but I didn't expect a carnation at all, so I'm enjoying the heck out of that. Grown in my organic soil. Yes. Anyway, last question comes from Mayerlin and Heather. They had a question that was about the same, so I combined them into one. Can I bring a pepper or tomato in for the winter and grow it indoors until next spring, then take it back outside? This is something I not only have answered before, I've done before. Yeah. Down in the Voodoo Garden, I mean, anybody that's been watching the Voodoo Garden or the Praxis channel knows that I started scorpion pepper and boot jolokia or ghost pepper indoors. I started it from seed about 14 to 16 months ago. And I showed you how to prune them, you know, to get them stronger. And the thing that I did was I called it prune your plants for larger yields. And that was meant to prune your plants to hold larger yields, not to actually get larger yields. The side effect was I got larger yields. So it was a two-part win for me. I actually had a plant that was stronger and sturdy as heck, like a house, and it would hold all kinds of peppers. The thing is that it branched out, and I kept the inside open so that it would go out and be this big, wide plant, and it got better sun. I took it outside, grew them outside, and they put out all kinds of peppers. And to show you how many peppers I got off of one plant, take a look at this picture. I know. There are some that get better yields. By the way, Bobby from MHP Gardener, he has, it's just nuts. I mean, you got to give that guy his props. The guy is a fantastic gardener. Nothing bad to say about Bobby. Bobby is a winner. Bobby knows his gardening, and he has a different way of gardening than I do. And that's perfectly fine. I think Bobby's way and Bobby's way of teaching are perfect. And I love his videos, and he did a pepper thing that really pushed the limits. It wasn't like mine. He got better peppers on his butt. He grew his in a greenhouse. He lives in the south. He has a longer growing season. You know, we all do what we can. I have a shorter growing season. I'm a little bit limited, so I do the best that I can. So my peppers did wonderful for my area, whereas Bobby's did better, but Bobby, of course, has a better growing condition, and he has a little bit more benefit to growing his than I do. But when he showed his peppers, my jaw just dropped. I just thought, wow. That is nuts. But to do your peppers indoors, yeah, you bring them inside, you give them the best light that you can, and one of the things that I would recommend, if you bring a plant in from outdoors, check it for bugs, because let me tell you something, if it's outside, whether it's in a pot or in the ground, it's going to have bugs. You want to make sure that you treat the soil to get those bugs out of there, because they're going to come out and they're going to find out that you have no natural predators in your house, and they're going to lay waste to your plants because they're going to go nuts. And what I did with mine is I use neem. There are a bunch of different things to use. I use neem because you mix it in with a gallon of water, and you do this outside. You flood your plant. You just give it a good soaking. Take off the bottom tray if there is one and let the water drain through there and let it set out there or in a garage for about another day. And then you make sure that all the water's out. Put the bottom water catcher that's on the trays, put it back on, bring it inside, and prune it back, because indoors is not as bright and not as good a conditions as outdoors. So if you have all this plant, it's going to slowly wither away because it can't seem to support all that because it doesn't have all the sun that it had outside. So your best bet is to prune it back nice and tight and then put it inside, let it adjust. It's going to go through a dormant period, basically throwing a little fit because it's not having perfect conditions anymore. Well, that's just too darn bad. Put it underneath some bright light. Don't let the soil stay moist. Let it dry out a little bit because you gave it a neem drench. Let it dry out, give it some water, and give it some time, and eventually it's going to start growing again. So it'll grow over the winter, and then in the spring you harden it off, which means you get it adjusted to the outdoor temperatures and stuff and the outdoor light. Take it back outside, and you have a plant that's going to continue growing, because tomatoes and peppers can be pretty much perennial, which means they go on and on year after year if they don't have a frost or cold weather, and you prune them back every now and then. With a tomato, you want to make sure that you keep it pruned back because they're going to get lanky and spindly and stuff, and so will peppers. So creative pruning is the key to that. But yes, you can absolutely do that. I did it to mine, and they're doing just fine. So anyway, there's your questions for Weekend Edition. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining me in the Voodoo Garden. I really do appreciate it. And as promised, as a special treat, I'm going to butcher a plant. And I'm not going to butcher just any plant for you. I'm going to butcher my cocoa tree. I know, you probably don't want to see that and you think I'm nuts. But the reason I'm doing this is because this tree grew out way too wide, and it's shading all the other plants in the Voodoo garden. Basically, it grew too good. And it has some top growth coming out in a really nice display. But the bottom ones, they're starting to turn brown, the leaves, because of the lower humidity. It's hard to keep a high humidity for cocoa trees. They need a super high humidity. But the bottom leaves are starting to brown out a little bit, and I really don't need those bottom leaves. I want this plant to continue on the next phase of growth, to grow up. So I'm going to take off the bottom branches. So let me get my big pruners and let me grab the camera. I'm going to meet you downstairs, okay? All right, bear with me, folks. Let's get this done. I know it's not pleasant. I don't like it either, but I do what has to be done for my plants. And I know sometimes it's tough to do this, but we have to do it because in the end, it will make our plants healthier. Look at these leaves. If you have this happening with your cocoa tree, this is because the humidity is not high enough. It's not any kind of fertilizer burn or anything like that. Cocoa trees need tons of humidity, and they have extremely thin, papery thin leaves. And it's hard to keep it humid in your house. You know, if you have it that humid, you're going to be dripping. And so these leaves fell apart, and the upper leaves, I guess it's more humid up towards the top of the roof. Who the heck knows? But the other ones, they're not turning colors at all. It's wonderful. So let's back it up and let's see what we got here. All right, let's take a look. That is a beauty. That is on the left. That is over 6 feet tall. It's a beautiful tree. I grew it from seed. That is my update on the cocoa tree, folks. You wanted an update? I wanted to show you an update, but I also wanted to wait and show you how I pruned this thing too, because it doesn't grow this way naturally, and it's looking beautiful. It's going to continue to flower, and hopefully some year it's going to have cocoa pods. And when it does, I'm going to be giving out those seeds because I don't need them. I figure, what the heck? I'll give out cocoa seeds to all my friends on YouTube and on Facebook. Huh. Well, that wasn't so bad, was it? It's going to be a good-looking plant. Thanks, everybody, for joining me on the Voodoo Garden. I really do appreciate it. My name is Ray. I'm out of here.